Food everywhere, and not a bite to eat. I'm getting tired of this broke stuff between not having enough for food stamps, first not having SNAP, and not getting paid well enough, and when I do get paid, it goes to pay off debts. I just often find myself, not just debts, but expenses, sometimes expenses that are annual that I don't expect, it just takes the money and it's gone. So the bank auto payments, things that you're like, oh, that should be fine. Just like when you take out, when you spend credit, oh, that should be fine. I'll be able to pay this back with insert means here. And then the means doesn't come through and you're screwed. So this is just a repeating cycle in my life. And I'm trying to take on this editing project. I'm trying to edit the footage that I take. The footage is the easy part. The editing is the hard part. And it literally can take days to edit one video if you want to add the captions and whatnot. So I'm having a hard time, but we'll talk about it when we get out. So yeah, one could say, on one hand, it's the editing challenges take a long time to publish a video. Ooh, 777. I love angel numbers. All right, and then the other situation is that my morale. How do I know? I'm spending 100 hours editing this footage. How do I know that anybody wants to view it? How do I know that it's not going to get 500 views? You know what I mean? So one workaround could potentially be that I just upload the footage without editing it. But that would require for me to be on point. And I feel like lately I have been on point, right? Quality over quantity, not long conversations that go on indefinitely, but short bursts. Like, I'm getting better at making these videos as I watch the footage. In the past, I shot for over a year, and I hardly watched one video that I shot. I would just shoot it and keep it moving, because who has time shooting an hour and a half to 2 hours of footage? Because I was spending so much time meditating and reflecting and trying to sort out the puzzle that is my life. So here I am, foot in hand, talking to my wall. I'm not quite right at all. Alright, cool. I'm gonna do my best. That includes now, so I'm gonna stop talking and start editing. But yes, it is a challenge. And the thing that's unfortunately my motivator is my stomach. Looking at all the bills that I have to pay, right? Looking at the debt. It's like, before you know it, I won't be able to eat. Now, I just want to say this real quick. I hinted at it a couple of days ago. The paradigm for benefits does not work. 30% of your income gross is supposed to go towards food. 30% of your income gross is supposed to go towards housing. And you get taxed 25% of your income, 20 to 20. Let's just give it a cool conservative estimate, 22%. Okay? If 22% of your income goes to taxes, 30% of your income goes to food, and 30% of your income goes to shelter, to home. Let's do the math. 30 plus 30 plus 22, right? 82%. So then guess what? I have child support, 17%. What is 17, my friend, plus 82? Isn't that 100? So if I'm spending money on food, shelter, child support, and taxes, I have nothing left! We have worked ourselves into a literal dead end. A literal dead end. A literal dead end. What else can I say? Bro, this is infuriating. And that's New York City. New York City doesn't sit there and say, oh, let's think about it. And it's not just New York City. It's actually the federal government. So I'm sorry, New York. It's not necessarily you. But the CityFHEPS joint, that's even based on that's probably based on a federal calculation that you're supposed to have, 30% of your income towards paying your rent. So who came up with this crap? This is bull. Frustrating. Anyway, I'm going to go. But yeah, the answer doesn't lie in relying on systems, because these systems are obviously not designed to work. What I just mentioned to you is ludicrous, right? Especially for a single adult male. or a single adult in the shelters. It's ridiculous.
All right, buckle up for a conversation that may be uncomfortable, especially to Americans, okay? So, let's talk about Pluto and Aquarius, right? Pluto and Aquarius Pluto just recently came into Aquarius. I don't remember if it was 2024, 2025. I read the article just now. Let me take a quick look. All right, it was 2024, January 20th, 2024. Pluto enters into Aquarius. And, there might have been other situations that popped off in the global environment in the global situation. What do you call that? In global history. There might have been situations that popped off around the world that I didn't know of, but basically, Pluto in Aquarius is supposed to mark a potential period of revolution, right? It's not supposed to, but often revolutions happen during that time. The last time Pluto was in Aquarius was 1777/1778, and during that time you had the American Revolution, or rather the America signing the Declaration of Independence. You also had the French Revolution and the Irish Uprising, right? So patterns of, being held down, being oppressed, and then breaking loose those chains. That's one of the things that Pluto in Aquarius is about, revolution. So it's not surprising to me that in 2026, the Levant/Middle East, although there was a speaker who said don't call it the Middle East, but she didn't replace it with anything else. So I still kind of call it the Middle East because the Levant isn't really all-encompassing. It's mostly the stuff that's happening on the left side, close to Palestine, Lebanon, etc. So, Pluto in Aquarius. It's right now, it looks like Iran is leading a revolution for the whole Middle East. Now, quickly, I'm going to note that people might not think of Iran as a heroic figure. And I would say they're more of an anti-hero, right? Anti-hero. Look at what they did just before this war started. They murdered 30,000 to 40,000 protesters. They might have been anti-regime protesters, and you're supposed to say Iran, but you're supposed to say Iranians. So that's kind of confusing. The Iranian leadership might have seen them as complete ops, like people to murder, but at the end of the day, those are people. So, even if they disagree with you, it just kind of sucks that they're all dead now. So that shit was off-putting to me. I was like, damn, why would the Ayatollah decide that was okay? And so, a month or two later, he passes. He doesn't pass. He's murdered along with his granddaughter and wife. And that right there is martyrdom. And martyrdom is like big. If martyrdom wasn't big enough for any society, martyrdom is especially huge for Islam, right? Because that's one of the best ways for them to go. It's like Valhalla. So they literally put out an AI propaganda film of the Ayatollah Khamenei's and his granddaughter being assassinated, and all that's left is the ring that he wore. And then his son, I don't know his name, it starts with an M, but I'm going to say also Khamenei, now the Ayatollah, is pledging revenge. And so far they're basically carrying out all these strikes on military and economic infrastructure, right? So you might say, oh, you can't penetrate, you can't stop the U.S., the U.S. is going to do what it's going to do. But the U.S., when you cripple it economically, that's what this war is about. They're crippling the U.S. economically, and they're destroying Israel, the proxy, because Israel is within reach, and Israel is strikeable, and you're not going to get nuked right off the bat for destroying Israel. Israel is a proxy, right? So, and what is a proxy? When you look at Ukraine and Russia, Ukraine is a proxy, right? A proxy is basically a nation that other nations, or a region that other nations use indirectly to attack their opponents, right? So the U.S. wants smoke with Russia. Russia is like, and Russia's like, I'm going to carry out this campaign against Ukraine. And the U.S. basically spent, hundreds of billions of dollars at least $100 billion to give Ukraine as many weapons as possible in order to stunt the Russian regime or the Russian empire or the Russian nation. And so Russia's like, they're losing. I think they lost like 400,000 soldiers. And the soldiers, they weren't necessarily like, hard cut, ironclad, like beasts, They were young kids. And they didn't have a lot of military experience. They weren't ready. Otherwise, it's Russia. You would think Russia would go in and demolish Ukraine and secure a victory within 30 days. But a combination of inexperience and a combination of, the U.S. providing all these military equipment to Ukraine, it didn't go well. So Russia lost a lot of troops, and they went through it. Combined with sanctions, they were getting basically, abused, right? So that's a proxy war. Then Ukraine is left with, so many dead, people fighting to not get drafted, right? Economy potentially in shambles. It's pretty messy. So Israel is a proxy, and right now Israel is getting destroyed. Like the last time I heard, 200 buildings were destroyed. Now they're attacking their financial infrastructure, right? And they're attacking their allies across the Middle East. They're attacking UAE. They're attacking Saudi Arabia. They're attacking, I don't want to speak incorrectly out of turn, but let me just name at least one more country. They're attacking bases in Iraq, in Kurdish Iraq. So, Iraq. So basically, Iran is on some type of time. They're attacking, like the last time I checked, they were attacking 11 countries at once, right? And their bases, primarily their bases, the U.S. bases in those countries. And they're basically saying that the U.S. has had a hold, and Israel have had a hold on the Middle East for so long, right? And they've been doing a lot of harmful things to the people who live there. Think Iraq in 2000s, think Afghanistan, think a lot of these different nations. I don't know enough of the history, but like a lot of these nations have been really like getting folded and rolled over, right? During the Clinton administration, during the Obama administration, during the Bush administration, right? Early in the 80s, they had some skirmishes as well. So like, it's been bad, right? And if you were Arabic, if you were from the Middle East, and you weren't part of the Gulf states that collaborate with the United States, right? Then, because the ones who are collaborating, they're selling oil. They're like, oh, we're good, boys. We're not going to mess up. They've been benefiting from the U.S. since, but now the U.S. isn't really doing much to help. Their base is getting bombed, their infrastructure getting bombed, and they're like, is this really a good deal anymore, right? It was cool while we were just on the U.S.'s side and benefiting, but now that shit is hitting the fan, like now it might not be considered that cool anymore. I would turn the volume a little bit up. Now I'll leave the volume the way it is. So yeah, Iran is leading the charge of potentially having a major revolution in the Middle East, a major revolution that overturns the existing oppression and, death and destruction that's been going on, for at least 76 years. They're turning that on its head, and they're saying, no, we're going to actually create change. We're going to basically, and here's the thing. People have been saying, let's have a two-state solution. Let's have a two-state solution. Israel and Palestine in the same vicinity. We can share, right? People have been thinking about that. Once Ayatollah Khamenei was assassinated and martyred, this new committee is like, fuck a two-state solution. Forget a two-state solution. You guys got to pack up and leave. So this whole time, Israel was pursuing a greater Israel where they wanted to take over, right? Like they wanted to take over Jordan, and Jordan's like, wait, we were allies, I thought. They want to take over Jordan. They want to take over a lot of areas. They want to turn Gaza into a vacation home. They basically want to expand their operations in the Middle East. And Khamenei is like, Ayatollah is like, we're going to take you out. And so far, the United States seems like they're not going to be able to really stop it. Really, Tehran, I think it's the capital of Iran, Tehran is getting bombed, and there's a lot of civilians in there. And what people are saying is that these pro-regime, no, these anti-regime people, the people who don't like the Ayatollah, the people who don't like the fact that their country is run by Shiite Muslims and has religious requirements. Those are the people who are living in Tehran, and those are the people who are getting bombed. So it's like, those are the people that they literally killed, 30,000 of them recently. So, the United States is basically posturing and saying, we're going to do a whole bunch of bad things to you guys. But they're also running out of weapons real quick. They went through 2 years worth of munitions in 2 weeks. So the United States is fighting a big, like, what do you call that? When you just bludgeon, right? They're fighting a bludgeoning war, and Iran is fighting a very strategic war that it was unprecedented. The way that they're, protecting, the way that they're attacking all these installations and killing troops, United States troops on these bases, the way that they're targeting, the economic system through strikes, and then the way that they're closing the Strait of Hormuz. The fact that they were willing to do that, they're blowing up any oil tanker that's trying to make anything happen for the U.S. and its allies. They literally told the U.S. and its allies, hey, guess what? No, they told other countries, if you get rid of the Israel embassy in your country, we'll allow you to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. It's like a loyalty thing. And Spain already did it. So, wow, shit is going down. We've watched, the reason that I'm so interested in this is because before 2023, I didn't know the difference between Palestine and Pakistan, right? So I'm very ignorant to what's going on, and I'm just minding my business. I'm voting for Joe because Joe Biden is the lesser evil, and we can't have Trump in office for another 4 years. So, they gave us this ugly option, and really 70% of Americans said that they wanted different candidates. So I literally tried to create the Humanitarian Alliance for that, because entrepreneurs, what they do is they create based off of need. And if the country is saying that they want to have, humanitarian candidates, or they want to have candidates that are different than the two, what are they called? Octogenarians or septuagenarians? Very old individuals who are still running government, because the boomers have been running the country for 50 years, right? They said they want something different, so I tried to create the Humanitarian Alliance. Not just because they wanted something different, but because I want something different. I was traumatized by the fact that not only would Democrats wage indirect war on Palestine and murder 400,000 Palestinians, plus I was also devastated that, when we tried to say, hey, we don't like this at all, your constituents don't like this, they just ignored us. So voting for Biden is one of the worst things I've done as an American, in 2020. I didn't vote for him in 2024. I didn't vote for Kamala in 2024. I voted for Claudia de la Cruz, right? Not because she was going to win, but to make a statement, right? To vote ethically, to have it on my conscience that I voted ethically. With Kamala being the presidential candidate in 2024, it was like putting up a half-broken puppet. She had no policy, right? People didn't know enough about her. She was literally a DEI hire, and in the worst way. Talking, So no offense to everybody who loves Kamala, but she just fit a criteria. Oh, a black woman. That's what we said. They literally said this. We want to have a black woman as the vice president. So, and then to pick that vice president to run. I was going to say Obama made mistakes, but a lot of people are like, Obama was just as, allowing these policies to continue just as much as any other candidate. So we can't really look to Obama like he's a savior. And some would say, oh, Obama's hands were tied, but I don't think your hands are tied because you have a voice. If you know that the problem happening in the Middle East is bad, you might not be able to influence the direction of, the Congress and the Senate. So they might actually hamper you from being able to stop genocide and stop war and stop death. But you could at least say something. You could say, hey guys, I really don't agree with this policy. I really hate the fact that we're still bombing stuff. And he could literally lead the country to vote for people who, Congress members and senators, who are opposing genocide. So don't talk to me about how Obama had his hands cuffed behind his back. He was leader of the free world. And as we could see with Trump, sometimes people just ignore Congress and they ignore the Senate and they go ahead and do what they want to do anyway because they're supposedly the leader of the free world. So anyway, 2028, I think we're gonna have enough lessons that we learned to not do the same thing, to not vote for the lesser evils, you know? And I think 2028 might be one of the last opportunities that we have to get this right, because they're trying to consolidate government and make it so that it's more of a monarchy than a democracy. So yeah, revolutions, Pluto and Aquarius, wow. That was unintentional, but here, we're wrapping this up. We started this conversation talking about how Iran just might be the first major revolution under Pluto and Aquarius, and their revolution can impact the entire Middle East. So, we ending with American Revolution. Another American Revolution is necessary, not in the form of arms, not in the form of weapons, but in the forms of voting and in the forms of, trying to do things right. And the thing is, people say, "Oh, the political system." I'm not gonna inflate my voice because this is a serious concern. People genuinely believe that this political system is gamed to the point that we can't get out. But I raise you this: if it takes $100 million for a presidential campaign to be successful, and that's based on traditional media, television marketing, newspaper marketing, etc. Imagine just spending a fraction of that, like 10 to 15 to 25 million maximum on a presidential campaign, and then spending that equivalent of 100 million on campaigns for the Senate and Congress. 2026 is a very important year for Americans. You might not think it because you're like, oh, 2026 midterms, okay, well, we need to be focused on the presidential elections. Here's the thing. We just talked about how a president's hands can be tied by Congress and by the Senate, right? So in 2026, yeah, sure, maybe Congress not as important, although I would say it's valuable to vote the ethical Congress people in anyway. But the Senate, a senator is elected every 6 years. So if you want to have an ethical humanitarian Senate majority, you need to start in 2026 because a third of Senate seats are up for voting. A third. And if a third of Senate seats are up for voting, then that means that you can't have an ethical majority unless you vote in a third-ish of the candidates in 2026 and a third-ish of the candidates in 2028, right? That will bring you your over 50%. That will bring you your ethical majority. And depending on how it goes, it could even bring you a supermajority. Because if citizens are like, no, seriously, let's get this, let's make it happen, let's elect pro-humanitarian candidates who actually listen to what their constituents have to say, then by 2028, if we have, like, let's say anywhere from 51 to 60% of candidates in Senate as humanitarian, then guess what? When the humanitarian president is elected in 2028, they will have no opposition. Congress will be fully, well, not fully, but supermajority humanitarian. Senate will be majority humanitarian. And the executive branch, right? Not just legislative, but the executive branch. The president will also be humanitarian. What happens when you have a humanitarian Congress and legislative? First of all, you can just expand the amount of seats in the judicial system and fill them up. I'm surprised that, well, they are not doing that because they already have enough to make their conservative majority in the judicial system. They already have a majority, so they're not thinking of expanding the seats. But once you elect, a humanitarian Congress, once you elect the humanitarian legislative and executive candidates, you can go ahead and change the amount of seats. This was big talk during the Democratic presidency. Oh, let's expand the amount of seats in the court, Supreme Court, so that we can have, the opportunity to elect more, liberal people. although I would say progressive at this point, because liberalism has brought us jack shit as a society. You know, it might have made like 10% of society better, but 10% is a small number. That's not utilitarian at all, is it? What we want is an ethical government, right? One that matches the human ethos, right? What is our desire as humans in America? We most likely want equal egalitarian outcomes for ourselves and others. We want to say, okay, I want the best quality of life for myself. I think my neighbor should get that as well. So that includes creating economic opportunity for people to have jobs and be able to take care of themselves without the obstacles that make it so much difficult for them to achieve success. Remove obstacles, create opportunities. There goes your egalitarian, humanitarian outcome. Because now people who are poor, they can get up and not just work menial jobs. Somebody told me that $12 is what people are used to making in the South. My friend Lucky told me that. $12. So that's not opportunity. That's slavery. That's wage slavery. That's exploitation, right? So you can imagine that people who are poor, they're not exactly excited to get up for a job that pays them $12 an hour because it pays them $12 an hour. You understand? Like, it's not actually doing anything to benefit them. It's creating more problems than good. But if you pay people $30 an hour, right, that's different, way different. And they'll sign up to do just about whatever you need because now they're able to take care of themselves. $30 an hour full time is a nice paycheck. That's like $60K, you know, before taxes. So what can you do at $60K? A lot more than you could do with what? $24K? A lot more. So that's how you help the poor. You give them opportunities to help society, right? Because think about it like this. You might say, oh no, a universal basic income is better. Well, with a universal, and I think we already had this conversation, so we don't have to have it twice, but just to summarize, if you have a universal basic income, then the work that needs to happen in society might not happen, right? If you're paying people $3,000 a month just to subsist, and you're like, oh, we're going to automate the rest of the jobs. A lot of jobs aren't automatable. A lot of jobs desire and deserve a human touch, right? And maybe in like 100 years, maybe in like 20 years, you could have robots doing everything, but there is some value to humans working. It's redemptive. It's enriching, right? It's valuable. I want to work. I just want to work as a leader. I want to create companies. I want to create value. I want to create art, right? So yeah, we should definitely have people working. And they would love to. Trust me when I say, from a representative of the poor class, we want great opportunity. We don't want jobs. We don't want $12 an hour. We don't want minimum wage. We want opportunity, right? And we can create that opportunity in addition to creating a humanitarian government. So yeah, Pluto and Aquarius, revolutions, right? Major outcomes, major upsets, major victories. I'm not just saying, oh, the reason why we're going to achieve so much success in the economic and the political spaces is because Pluto and Aquarius. That's kind of just like a, you know, dismissive way of solving it. There's so many factors that pour into the change that we're going to create. One of the factors is you, right? I can't do this by myself. A person who thinks that he's leading, but but no one is following, is only taking a long walk. So I can't do this by myself. It would take the people, right? As Bain would say. It takes the people. So I hope that people like yourself get excited about what's possible, like Dr. Stone, right? Get excited, Senku. Get excited. I hope that you're getting excited about what's possible so that when we actually have the infrastructure, the human infrastructure, to build these things, you'll be ready. You'll be like, sign me up. Where do I put my $20? Where do I put my $20 a month? You know, some of it can be, most of it should probably be economic, because we'll pay you back plus interest, and then we'll use the revenue also to set up the political infrastructure. But yeah, you can definitely donate to the political infrastructure as well. It's not going to have a return on investment, but it will have a return on investment, because the return on investment is a society, is a political environment, is a government that works for the people for real, and is not just corrupt, is not just, taken over by APAC and, big business. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be a government that actually works for us. How does it do that? Well, social safety net, right? Minimum wage change. Dang. Foreign policy, right? You caught me off guard with that question. I haven't really spent a lot of time thinking about the political, but let's just say if we could do one thing, it would be foreign policy. Two things: foreign policy and a social safety net. A social safety net allowing people to say, okay, we can stop working our crazy jobs just for a moment to be able to catch our breath, invest into ourselves, and then re-enter the workforce rested, healthy, whole, sane, capable, equipped, without having to be so afraid of what we need. Oh my God, need. We're being driven by a need. Now we're being driven by a want, a desire to have a higher quality of life than just what the basic infrastructure provides, which is still amazing. The basic infrastructure allowing people to have homes, allowing people to eat, and allowing people to have, access to education, resources that will allow them to grow and further themselves and become more capable of having the careers that they want. So we could see a massive downturn in the amount of people who are entering into menial jobs like retail, food service industry, right? And we could see an influx of people who are more educated and now equipped with the skills to take on trades that are needed, that we didn't even know that we needed because we were going without it for so long. But now we equip people to engage in those trades, and we're winning. Straight up, we're winning. Are you excited about this? I'm excited about this.
So I've got a problem. I'm at an impasse. The problem that I'm facing is that I've got a lot of content, and when I first started out, but like the content that I wanted to start with, February 6th and on, hour and a half. A lot of these videos go up to an hour and a half. Some of these videos go up to an hour. I don't have the strength to edit them down, and I don't have the gall to publish an hour and a half footage every day expecting that people are going to watch all of it. Now lately my videos are more succinct, to the point, and even exciting. I'm not saying that the other videos weren't, but they were during a depressive stage. I had a lot on my mind, and I wanted to cut it down to just the essentials. So right now, I'm like, what do I do? Because I could either scrape all that footage, but I know that it's meaningful stuff, and I know that it's context. It's context for what's going on now and what'll happen soon. So I want to keep it. I want to salvage it, but I also can't afford editing. I can't afford editing. So I can't afford to pay for someone to edit my videos, and I'm struggling to do it myself. I still have to take care of my own responsibilities as a parent, as a human citizen, as a New Yorker, right? All the expenses that I'm responsible for. I'm getting torpedoed. I'm getting torpedoes. And then there's a whole war going on at the same time. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to talk to Creator right now. And I believe that he wants me to talk to him about this stuff. And I say him because the Old Testament refers to the Creator as a he. Creator refers to himself, I think, as a he. So I'm not just trying to assume the Creator's gender. I know that some people identify the Creator as a woman. And I know that some people don't identify a Creator at all. I'm sorry, I'm presupposing because this is just how I believe things. It was just what I believe. I think that you can grimace and bear it. Oh, I'm sorry, I try not to talk about Creator too often. Alright, just for the sake of other people's belief systems, but when I do talk about it, I guess it matters. So I'm going to pray to Creator right now. You're welcome to join me. Creator of the universe. I think you're pleased to be called Creator because there are so many different names to call you that Yahweh isn't necessarily the thing that you hear from everyone, and I think Creator is universal enough to make you known but also for me not to trigger people who have other Abrahamic and otherwise beliefs. So, Creator, I come to you right now, and I'm saying, woof, oof, ow, ugh. You know, I've got so much content, and every time I look at it, it shows up to be an hour plus. And I'm a little overwhelmed as an editor. I'm a little overwhelmed because I'm editing from a shelter, you know? I'm trying to make this happen because I do need the resources from this, and I do need society support in order to create the things that I want to create. And I'm also very underwhelmed because it's been 16 months. I've been in a shelter for exactly 16 months. I'm just tired, Creator. I'm tired. I want to be able to pay for things. I want to not rely on a system. But I have a problem because I don't want to just shove an hour and a half worth of footage down people's throats, unedited. You know what I mean? And every time I try to sit here and edit content, it backfires because there's so many distractions in my environment. My health is weak. The sun isn't up. So what do you want me to do? Do you want me to start from 321? Do you want me to start from today? Do you want me to start from a couple of days ago? Do you want me to start from just when my footage was on point? And then we go backwards in retroactively into February 6th when I have a solid team? Can you give me confirmations and insight? Can you help me to know what to do, because my health is here at stake, and I don't have a lot of people in my life who can speak to this situation and tell me what I should do. I could pay for a reading from someone else, like Days Vibrations, to give me insight, but you know, I do want confirmation. I'm not gonna be biased. Me. I'm not gonna be biased as to where that information comes from. I just ask for a confirmation. Help me to lead. Help me to know what I'm doing with my time, energy, and resources. I'm sitting here trying to make videos, and when you just make videos, when you just make videos and you post them, it's so easy, right? And lately, I've been getting to a place where my videos are easy to shoot and easy to edit, because I don't have to edit them, because they're just videos. You shoot them and upload them. That's how a lot of people shoot consistent content. You know, Jadina doesn't edit captions. Jadina doesn't cut her videos down. Jadina just speaks stream of conscious and posts it. I don't know who has the appetite for stream of conscious in 2026, but would you help me to do that? You know, I wanted to make my edit videos. I wanted to add captions burnt in. And I'm seeing how hard it could be to maintain this progress. So I'm asking you, Creator, can you guide me? Can you give me wisdom? And help me not to overdo it. Help me to do this well. Help me not to overexert myself. I want this preferably to be effortless. So I need your guidance. I need your spirit. I need your voice. I need your input. I need your impact. I need you to help me, because I'm about to lose it. You know, I'm literally taking time off of work to make these videos, and I'm struggling to do so. I'm waking up at 12 o'clock in the afternoon every day, and then just trying to get as much done as I can before 7. It's just like tedious, and it's stressing me out. Shooting video is the easy part. Editing video is the hard part. I ask you for your wisdom and your guidance, and I ask you for help. I'll wait off camera. I'll wait to see if you give me any kind of guidance right now. Amen. A reason I'm having such a hard time with this is because this is such a cerebral project, you know? I have to make decisions. Do I edit it down? Do I cut stuff out? Do I publish an hour and a half worth of footage? I don't know. All I know is that I have limited time, limited energy, and limited resources. So I gotta do something. I don't know what's gonna resonate with audiences. Seems kind of niche. Seems like only like 1,000 people at most would like to watch an hour and a half worth of footage. Lately, I've been better at cutting that down. So I wonder if all of this is practice, and I hope that I don't just go duh when it comes to spring equinox. I hope that I don't just lose my fervor, lose my energy, lose my ideas. So, creator, February 6th, March 21st, March 1st, daylight savings, March 8th. Can you give me wisdom as to when to start? Because I'm really tired and I'm not able to hear your voice the way I want to. Yo, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. Check this out. We got a Hispanic chef, y'all. What? We got a Hispanic chef, y'all. We need a good. It's a wrap. This random new guy in the cafeteria is playing jazz covers. I'm not gonna lie, that thing is soothing my spirit. It makes me feel that jazz is missing in my life. Anyway, my face needs some moisturizing, so I'm gonna go take care of that. So this is my physical journal, not digital journal, and this is the 4th journal that I've written in the time that I've been here at the shelter. I will post today's entry on social media platforms tomorrow. So if you're interested, you can head over to the current platforms. In 2026, these would be Patreon, YouTube, and Upscrolled for this type of media. So yeah, I'm going to post them. I'm going to just start doing everything that I can do every day today. Because if I can do it today, then I can do it tomorrow. You feel me? And on a day where I'm teaching, there will just be less content. But what I'm planning to do now is to just shoot the content in the same day, upload it. Like, let's say I finish shooting by 7, and then I post, like, as soon as I finish shooting at 7. And then if I shoot anything after later that day, I'll post it under the same date the next day with just making a note that it's evening/night content. So that sounds doable. That sounds sustainable, right? The whole point is to find something that's sustainable. I'm going to change the volume in a second. Brace your ears. And I'm also going to change the ISO. That's high. That's good. Yeah, so I just feel like it's the wise thing to do. I prayed about it. I thought about it. I was going to ask for someone for a reading, but they didn't respond, and I'm not going to get paid until the 17th anyway. So right now, I just feel that Creator wants me to do this. I feel like I can do this, and I'm not feeling like I was impressed spiritually, but I feel that after thinking about it and praying about it, I feel like my mind has formulated that this is the right thing to do. It's the wisest thing to do. Just publish what you have on a daily basis. And then when you have more resources, potentially can hire editors and stuff, then you can pay them to work on all the content prior if there's a demand for it. And if not, we'll just keep going until there is a demand for it. So I wrote this down. I wrote down a few entries and I want to share them with you. So, first, it's the same way you create art, then want people to appreciate what you're doing, including the amount of time it takes. I'm telling a great story, trust me, and be patient with me. That's the way I believe Creator feels. Okay, so you get that. I'm thinking strategically, I'm working prudently. I can get this work done. If I can do it in the winter, I can do it all year. Oh my gosh, it happened again. Let me change the shutter speed this time. Blown out backgrounds. Yeah, we got sunlight until 7 now. Daylight savings. Can I get a hey, man? Holler and amen together. I was just thinking about Godiva Guide. The person who I get most of my political news from, my geopolitical news from. She said, YASAP. The word of the day is YASAP. Yesterday as soon as possible. All right, so it's going to take you a while to get used to my handwriting, but I mean, that's why I'm reading it for now, like it's a little bedtime story. All right. And I say you could have to get used to my handwriting because I like it. It's like a cool font. You know what I'm saying? Like, for real, for real. What I do every day is an art. It's worthy of recognition. I'm developing strategies even now that I can employ today and tomorrow. I love saying this from Senku in the anime Dr. Stone. Get excited. Taking a shower in the shelter with ADHD is very hard. Pardon my Costco brand underwear or BJ's brand underwear. Yeah, like, I don't need this. You gotta get all of your stuff together, preferably because you're taking a shower in a completely different room, walking distance from where you are. I have all of my cosmetics stuff in here, which maybe if you want, we could go over a tour. Remember back in the day, OG YouTube, get ready with me. You could do a get ready with me style video. But yeah, I gotta take all this stuff, and I gotta take the clothes. I need a shirt. This is kind of like not as sorted as it usually is, partially because I'm over it. Let me get in there. Yeah, I'm over it. But here we go. Just pick a random shirt. 3, 2, 1, pick. Okay, let's go with that one. I'm over it. I'm over it. Over here. Been here for 16 months. Let's see. Yeah, I'm the longest resident here in this current shelter. All right. So, we got the clothes. We got the shirt. We got the towel. We got the underwear. We got the cosmetics. We got the slippers. Oh my gosh. Yeah. You didn't see my feet. They're not terrible, but they're a little ashy right now. And we've got everything we need. Great. So now I can go. And it's hard for someone with ADHD because it's like there's so much to remember. If I were just living in a home, I would have a bathroom that has all my cosmetics in it. And I would have my room, which I would go to once I'm finished in the shower. And it has all my clothes in it. It's very simple. This stuff right here is mad extra. But we do what we gotta do. Hold on a second, I'm making something. The good news is that I got my ADHD medication today. I didn't have it because I have ADHD and forgot to pick it up last time, and then they put it back on the shelf. I wanted to be cool and punch a hole through this. Nope. One hand. Alright. Yep. This is my passive aggressive or what's the word I'm looking for? Non-stimulant ADHD medication. So I finally have it. I don't know how much of an effect not having it has had on me because it's passive. It's a non-stimulant. It's not like Adderall, which is something that my therapist discussed. I mean, not my therapist. My psychiatrist discussed. This is embarrassing me on camera. It says lift and peel. I'm lifting it and I'm peeling it, and nothing's happening. My psychiatrist said that because I am bipolar and because I'm severe bipolar, it's probably not a good idea for me to take a stimulant like Adderall. It could mess with me. So I respect that. And I'm going with the non-stimulant. See how that goes. Friendly reminder, don't be like Kanye. Take your medications because sometimes the brain lacks the ability to produce certain chemicals, right? So it took me like 5 years to find the right antipsychotic, but I found it. And you might work with risperidone, you might work with my mind. I'm high, so I'm not going to remember these names, but you might work with Abilify. But for me, this works just fine. Invega, paliperidone. And it's funny because Invega was the first antipsychotic that any place put me on, right? It's the first antipsychotic that any hospital put me on. But they gave me so much. They did like a dosage. I'm going to pull that up one day. Maybe like tomorrow. Not right now. I'm not in the mood. They gave me a high dosage of it, injected. And I was bedridden. I couldn't get out of bed. Like, I was so tired, you know? So it's not worth it, because you're taking a medication that debilitates you from functioning and from thinking. It creates cognitive impairment. No, no, no. But if you have a cool team like the team at Queen's Hospital, they'll help you out. They'll set you straight. They'll get you right. Shout out to Queen's Hospital. All right, cool. So I've been taking that medication for 16 months, and I have not had an incident, a hospitalization since. Okay, what did I say about this face? Go moisturize it. Here is how I take a shower in the shelter. First, we have the clothes on top of the underwear, on top of the shower stuff. We didn't realize it should really be shower stuff to make it, this towel to make it accessible. And then the shirt. Nope, the underwear is the most precious. Put the shirt on the bottom. You don't want the underwear to have any unnecessary dirt. So, towel, underwear, shirt on top of all of the cosmetic stuff. Sadly, I don't have the resources that others do. So I make do by just putting my stuff on the floor. They clean this floor every day. So what I usually have is the water running so that it'll gain heat. It's still cold. Oh no, that's not good. Well, I guess I'm just gonna have to go in strong. But usually this water gets very hot. I don't know why it's cold right now. I've heard some things. So anyway, how do I maintain privacy, right? Because I don't want to take this off and then go inside. Well, our shower, and I think a lot of showers in these shelter systems, have this dynamic where you can hold down the button and the water will stop. And if you let go, it'll start again. So what I'll do is I'll step in here and I will get undressed. And then I will continue to take a shower. Make sense? Okay, let me take care of this before I get drenched in cold water, cold fury. YASAP. YASAP. Palestine needs to be free YASAP. YASAP. I never asked to get a tripod in here because I just figured they would assume it's a weapon or see it as a weapon. You know, like a baton. Just a couple of thoughts I had in mind. First of all, living in real time, right? I shoot footage, I say, okay, I'm gonna edit it, and it's gonna take some time, and I'll have time to take a look at it and to see whether or not everything makes sense, and it's gonna be permanent. You know, all these different thoughts. Hold on, that's my friend. So yeah, and this is me moisturized. Obviously it takes time to kick in, but it's better than being like so dry skinned, right? Shout out to Lumen. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mention the brands that I use in advance, and then if they want to sponsor me, then we can talk. But yes, I've been using this for a while. But when I'm depressed and I'm low energy, I just don't do anything. I'm just like, I just don't take care of myself as much. I don't enjoy self-care as much when I'm exhausted. So yeah, living in the moment. We're living in the moment and creating in the moment, and basically the moment calls for the ability to be consistent. The moment calls for consistency. If I want to publish videos once a day, I need to find a rhythm for my day that allows me to do something productive and create consistently, right? So the amount that I'm shooting, the way that I'm shooting, the way I'm being conscious of my words, the way I'm trying to stay on topic, right? So that I have less to edit. My dream is to just throw stuff into Premiere and hit publish. Yes, I also use Premiere, despite the fact that they have an updated AI policy where they can scrub all of your content. I'm like, yo, I'm not about to learn a new editing software. You got it for now. For now. Change your policy though, that'd be great. I need another non-linear editor. Is that what we call this? Or is that music? I forget. I've been in both. Yeah, I'm giving myself the challenge to edit these and post these once a day because I shoot every day. That's not the problem. The problem is the editing. But if I just posted them as is without any editing, kind of like a naked post, you know, like other influencers have done. A lot of especially in the spiritual community, you know, they do stream of conscious. They're in the middle of doing their reading. They're capturing themselves doing it in real time. And so they allow YouTube to generate their captions or the other app that they're using. And they just go, you know? So rather than reinventing the wheel, I could do it the way that others do it, you know? And if I ever get funded enough, well funded, I can have a team that edits these videos. It occurs to me that it's not ads that'll be 100% of the revenue. It's not even viewers who will be 100% of the revenue. Some of it will be sponsorships, natural, organic sponsorships, like what I just did here. Yeah, you know, I'll shout you out if you are a good product, and if you pay me, that's even better. But yeah, in order for someone to pay you for stuff, you need to have an audience, right? So that's what I'm trying to prioritize. The other thought was about CityFHEPS. So I want to show you this proposal that I worked on. I could just pull it up on my laptop. Yeah, so I spent a lot of time putting together a proposal to discuss how, you know, New York has 100,000 shelter residents, more or less. Sometimes it fluctuates. And how we can develop strategies. We can consult the offices, the agencies, Department of Homeless Services, Department of Social Services, and Housing and HPD. Let's just say HPD. I don't know why I put HPD and not HRA, but HPD, yeah. To assess needs, we can consult them on how to better create solutions for housing. And the thing is, you know, what if we just asked, you know, if I had an audience, then I'm sure that the mayor's office would see this request, which is simply make CityFHEPS based off of your annual income as opposed to every other week's pay stubs. You know, if you're freelance, you know, or you work as a substitute teacher as I do, your income is going to fluctuate month by month. And that's what's held up my apartment. I literally had a lottery apartment that I won in February, and then they reached out to me and said it was my turn on the waiting list in July. So I'm off the waiting list, and I visit the apartment with my son. I take him over to the apartment in downtown Brooklyn. He loves it. Obviously, we love it. It's a nice furnished luxury apartment that is subsidized. And CityFHEPS is basically a program that allows you to that pays for your rent, and you pay 30% gross of your income, which we already discussed is infeasible anyway. But you know, that's here or there. I'm sure I can make it work, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, for the last 2 years, I've made approximately 10,000 annually. So this whole, but your paycheck recently went up, that can happen sometimes. You don't have any money. You're not making enough. That happens sometimes. I didn't get to work for 3 months between July and September as a substitute. You're not in demand during the summer because there are no gigs. You don't get paid over the summer. And in the first month of school, there's not a high demand for substitutes. So if we're talking about the city, if we're talking about New York City, and we're talking about ways to improve systems for people like myself who work for the city, and people who work freelance, and people who work, you know, part-time, you know, this whole, what's it called? It's called rebudgeting. DHS has a process called rebudgeting, and they rebudget based off of your pay stubs every other week to make sure that you're paying your contribution. You know what I mean? And my contribution should be, with 30% of 10,000. Well, it's 30. It's 3,000. My contribution should be 3,000 divided by 12. It's about $250 a month. You know, that's how much I make annually. If I'm working annually and I'm able to handle that, then here I go mixing up my words. But if I'm working annually and that's how much I earn, I can definitely contribute towards my towards my CityFHEPS, towards my portion of the rent. And I'm sorry, my brain is fighting me right now because I want to do this in one solid take. I don't want to do any editing. Let me pause it. Oh yeah, if I change a job, then yeah, let's list projected income. You know what I mean? If my income changes the year after, then yeah, renew it based on the new income, the new annual. But don't sit here and like pinch my pockets and say, okay, this week. The same thing happened with Snap. My income shot up in October, right? And then it leveled out. I didn't work, most of November, but they're looking at October and they take away my income and boom. They take away my Snap and now I'm basically spending all my money out of pocket. When in reality, this upcoming month, I'm probably going to make a lot less. So, whatever. That's basically it. And this is a good segue. I had an idea that I wasn't going to share here. I was going to share it. I was going to share it in my physical journal, but I wrote this down. Have you noticed that if you're not part of the country's core infrastructure or making a killing for shareholders, you're not really thought of? There's not a plan for you, besides exploitation, that is. Think about that for a second. If you're not working for the city's infrastructure, if you're not building roads, if you're not, and that's the thing, even some of these occupations we've seen, especially during COVID, people who were considered essential workers, they were still being commoditized. So it's not always the case. There are jobs that might have paid well in the 80s and 90s, and now they don't pay well anymore. My income as a substitute teacher is $224 a day, but I only get to work so many days because A, I'm not always well, right? I can't work consistently. That's the whole point of why I had to find part-time work to begin with. And B, because they don't pay you for holidays, they don't pay you for the summer. So if anything like that happens, you're ate out. Whatever though, right? Whatever, until now. Until we fix the system, it's going to be whatever, because literally there's no plan for people like me. If you're telling me that I'm 30% gross income, 30% gross SNAP, 30% gross food, 30% gross housing, 22% tax rate, 22% tax rate, and 17% child support, you obviously don't have a plan for me because, many people have had this problem, and yet you still don't have a solution. I'm talking mostly about federal government because they're the ones who issue SNAP. They're the ones who set the poverty rate, and the poverty guidelines is what the city goes by. The poverty guidelines are what the city goes by. I try to use proper grammar as much as possible. Yeah. I'll probably find one way to plug this every day, but we have to build our own systems, guys. We have to build our own systems. I'm going to turn the mic so you can hear me. We have to build our own systems. We have to build our own systems. In a few days, I'm going to sit here and show you we're going to put together an outline in real time. This is what I have so far. I worked on this when I was working a couple of days ago. Yes, Egalitarian Economics, building our own means of production. Story time, ready? So what do we need first? I'd say we need some money, crowdfunded by society. We also need an infrastructure to funnel resources from crowds to the products and services, basically like a system, like an accounting system, stuff like that. So when do we grow from one person to multiple people? Don't we need volunteers up to a point? Yes, I agree about volunteers. So let's imagine that we have everyone we need to create this. What are we creating? And not necessarily volunteers. If we get the right amount of investors, if people are just investing into this, we can pay the initial staff to set this infrastructure up. Now, what is the infrastructure? Essentially, I believe that one of the great ways to build the economy is to crowdfund our own social corporations. The social corporation is something that I came up with. Don't look it up because it's not yet there. But a social corporation is this, and I didn't come up with it. I borrowed ideas that were similar, and I'm defining it as such. So a social corporation is essentially a corporation that's managed either by a management company or that's managed by the workers collectively. And whatever the case may be, the revenue, the profit goes towards paying taxes, right, equitably. If this is the nation that we're going to inherit, then we might as well start making that deficit go down. So paying a fair amount of taxes, which also, by the way, invests into the social infrastructure, right? People having the ability to have food, have clothing, have medicine, and have housing, right? Without necessarily needing to find work or die. Social infrastructure and paying down the tax debt, which, by the way, when millennials and Gen Z and a little bit of Gen X, I don't know, aren't you guys already? No, wait, Gen X never became the majority, so let's give them a chance. Gen X, Gen Y, millennials, and Gen Z come together. We're going to create an economy that is fair, and we're definitely not going to be sending any troops out there killing people for oil. So it stands to reason that we won't rack up a high military budget, and it stands to reason that we won't go sending off full-priced weapons to other nations and feeding into the military-industrial complex. For more on the military-industrial complex, I request for people to show and share their best videos in the comments. So yeah, instead of volunteers, we'll entry-level, no, not even entry-level, initial administration. I agree about an initial administration. Let's imagine that we have everyone we need and the resources that we need to create this. What are we creating? Good question. We are creating, ready, an incubator for companies. We raise funds for multiple companies, covering all operating expenses and using loans for the rest. Successful businesses pay workers well, pay fair taxes, and reinvest into other industries, that's a big one, affect political outcomes, also a big one. I could dedicate a whole video to this concept, and I just might. I'm going to leave you cliffhanger, hanging from a cliff, and that's why he's called Cliffhanger. I know that's practically borderline sadistic, but I'm not trying to be sadistic. I just have such low energy. You know, if you guys got me out of here, I would definitely be able to make my own food. I used to make salmon, you know, very healthy meals, natural, no, not natural, yeah, but organic turkey. I used to ground up my own turkey and make burgers. You know, I used to have nutrition, you know. Every once in a while, we get nutritional foods here. Not every once in a while, about half the time, 3/4 of the time, 2/3 of the time, we'll get really good nutrition, and every once in a while, we'll just have something that's like a crater in your stomach. So that's how it works, you know, and breakfast is always the same. If I could make my own breakfast, I'm telling you, it would be, why is this color so yellow? If I could make my own breakfast, it usually consists of, when I wasn't homeless, Chobani yogurt, sponsor, not a sponsor, orange juice, cashew cereal, organic, sponsor, not a sponsor, fruit, like a banana at least, and I would have more fruit nowadays. And the fifth item was protein. That's right, a hash brown, bacon, or eggs. There you go, nutritious meal. And then I would get up and go to the gym. No, I would go to the gym first, and then I would eat. So basically, if I have the right revenue, I can live independently without needing to rely on government at all. And I would be healthy, and then I'd be able to share these ideas more. And plus, I've already spoken a lot today, so tomorrow we'll talk about diversification. Uh-oh, I lost the page. Tomorrow we'll talk about diversification, and we'll talk about, well, maybe even create more. No, wait, tomorrow I have my son. So Monday, we'll continue this on Monday. Sounds good?